Hey peeps, on this episode I'm going to be talking about probably one of the stupidest stats that I've ever heard about in football. Tyreek Hill decided that he wants to be a porn star when he retires, and I'll have the usual cast of commercials and shorts. But first, Buddha. No, not Buddha Baker. I'm talking about the guy who started Buddhism. His real name wasn't Buddha, it was something else that I'm not even going to try to get into pronounce right now. But yeah, the guy who started Buddhism. Why is it called Buddhism if it's actually a Buddha? Wouldn't that be Buddhism? Yeah. Anyways, yeah, so the Buddha that I grew up with was basically a fat guy, you know, with a bald head and wearing some robes. And, you know, that whole term Buddha belly came from, like, if your friend had a, you know, you had a fat friend and he had a big gut, that was, he had a Buddha belly. Haha, and you would go and slap him on his gut just to play around. Probably don't want to do that nowadays. But anyways, yeah, so the Buddha that I grew up with was a fat, bald guy. The reason I'm bringing this up is because one of my favorite shows to watch is The Amazing Race. Love that show. And on the first episode, they were in Thailand where they were supposed to locate a 200-foot tall golden statue of Buddha. Now, 200-foot tall statue is probably hard to miss, but, you know, if I was looking for Buddha and I was on a team, I'd be like, no, that's not Buddha. That's not the Buddha. That's not a fat, bald guy. Because the Buddha statue that they're looking for was definitely not a fat, bald guy. It looked more even, I guess you would call it effeminate, androgynous, and definitely not fat. This Buddha is what you would call svelte. So I started looking around and starting to see some other images and find out why Thailand had a svelte, effeminate Buddha, where other places had the fat bald guy. And I found out that China apparently is where the fat bald guy originated. And I guess they got him confused with somebody else named Buddha or whatever. So that's why when I grew up, Buddha was a fat bald guy. But apparently, I guess he wasn't. Which is kind of weird because if you look at a lot of different images and statues all across Asia, they go anywhere from being svelte to being chubby to being fat and bald. So I thought it was kind of interesting that Buddha has so many different looks about him. Yeah, I mean, because you talk about like people like Jesus Christ, okay? So basically, whenever you see a picture of Jesus Christ, it's always a guy with long hair and a beard, right? Sure, there are some pictures that have him with blue eyes, which is kind of weird because he was obviously from an area of the Middle East where you don't see a whole lot of blue-eyed people, at that time anyways, back, you know, centuries ago. But yeah, it was kind of interesting that this Buddha has so many different incarnations. Makes you kind of wonder. Anyone that knows me knows that I'm not a real big stat person. The reason being is that they can be skewed. Even stats that seemingly seem like, oh yeah, that's a really good stat, like a pitcher's ERA, which should lead directly to winning, doesn't necessarily mean that it does. Because, what, starting pitchers, they're in there for, what, 3-4 innings, and then they're out of there. And then relievers come in, so you're pretty much being based on your win-loss record on your bullpen holding up your lead. So, I mean, even stats like that. Stolen bases, don't even get me started on that. I mean, you made the bases bigger, and you made it easier to steal bases, but now you ooh and ah over someone who steals 60 bases. Even Michael Strahan a couple weeks ago said that sacks were not as important as everybody else thinks they are. I'm pretty sure all these things are important to the players themselves because they're probably written into their contracts that if they reach certain levels, they get a nice big fat bonus check. But overall, I mean, stats, if you pass for 3,000, 4,000 yards in a year, a quarterback, what does that mean? Does that mean you're a good quarterback? Or does it mean your team just basically played a whole lot of really bad teams so you were able to pad those stats? Or maybe it means that you were the bad team and needed to constantly pass in games to catch up and try to score to win. So yeah, a lot of statistics are skewed, so I don't really put a whole lot of sway in them. and especially these new stats that are coming out, like the team's ability to score on third down when leading by 10 points in the third quarter. I mean, what is that? Probably one of those gambling stats, I guess. Which brings me to the stupidest stat that I've heard so far. It's called the EPA. Expected points added. And what this is, by definition, I'll have to read this off here, quantifies a play's impact on the team's potential to score. Wow, that's a mouthful. I think what it means is that a team is thought to be able to score so many points before play, but then after the play happens, they readjust that potential to score. Now, if that's not a gambling thing, I don't know what is, because that is just like, who is looking at this kind of stuff? You know, to me, the biggest stat is wins and losses. Did you win and did you lose? That's all that matters really in the end, because you know, you can pass for like 1 billion yards, you can rush for 1 billion yards, you can steal 1,000 bases, you can whatever you want. But if you don't win in the end, it doesn't really matter. So, you know, stats are changed because the way the game is played, the rules changes, everything changes around those stats. So it's not, you know, a given that good stats means wins. So Tyreek Hill revealed last week that once he retires from football, he would like to be a porn star. Okay, many decades ago, I was being interviewed by a magazine just before my band was to go on stage, and the reporter asked me, "Hey, if you weren't doing this, what would you be doing?" And I said, "I'd be a porn star." Now, back in the day, being a lead singer of a rock and roll band, it wasn't very difficult to find women that wanted to be with you. So I'm pretty sure Tyreek has no problem finding women that want to be with him. And even if they don't want to be with him, he's got a ton of money. He can go out and pretty much, you know, get whatever he wants, you know. I guess you go over to Amsterdam or something. I don't know. But yeah, so I'm trying to figure out why he wants to be a porn star. Is it the excitement of it all, the lure of cameras, and maybe he's an exhibitionist, I guess, as well? So yeah, I just find that kind of interesting. And he said he's dead serious. The other thing that's kind of interesting is that they actually put that out there on TV, so everybody knows now. So I mean, okay, sure. I wonder how many other guys playing the NFL are like, oh yeah, I'm right there with him. Because I mean, let's face it, if you're a figure that people know, gravitate towards, you got no problem, female or male, having a problem getting partners in your life. So I just thought that was kind of interesting that he wanted to be because he's already a multimillionaire, right? So I mean, it's not like he, you know, needs the money or anything, or is going to pay for having, you know, sex or whatever. So yeah, that was kind of interesting that he would say that. But I can see where he's coming from. So it was revealed this week that the 2030 World Cup is going to be played in 6 countries: Spain, Portugal, Morocco, Uruguay, Paraguay, and Argentina. Now, I get this one coming up is going to be played in 3 countries, Canada, United States, and Mexico. But all those countries are pretty much on the same continent in the same hemisphere. Whereas not the same with this one. I mean, sure, you got Spain, Portugal, they're right next door to each other. And even Morocco, even though it's in Africa, it's still only a hop, skip, and a jump across the Strait of Gibraltar. So I can see that. But Uruguay, Paraguay, and Argentina, nowhere near Africa or Southern Europe. Just got to figure out why Paraguay. I mean, they're landlocked. They don't even have a coastline. So how's that going to work out? And who's paying for this? Is the Soccer Federation paying for it? Are the individual countries paying for it? And talk about jet lag. I mean, you know, Are they going to like, oh, what are they going to do? Maybe they're going to get like those big C4 planes, you know, the ones that have the nose that falls off and everything, and they haul tanks and everything. Maybe they're going to rent a bunch of those and fix them all up, and they'll have like their own, you know, beds and rooms, and they'll have like a bathrooms, and they'll have like, you know, maybe a little mini playing field in the back where they can practice their moves while they're flying back and forth between Paraguay and Morocco. Yeah, talk about World Cup. This is getting a little bit out of hand, but I'm really interested to see how this is all going to work out. Are they going to extend the whole thing? Because usually the World Cup lasts about like a month and a half, I think, something like that, maybe 2 months. So are they going to expand it to last longer? Because, I mean, like I said, talk about jet lag. That's going to be pretty interesting to see who they're going to seed and what teams are going to be playing who and where. Are they going to have like maybe a South America thing and then a European thing? The groups, you know, the Group A, Group B, Group C, whatever. It's gonna be interesting because usually they do like a ping pong ball thing, don't they? You know, that's how they get those groups together. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what they do with that. The World Cup 2030 played around the world. One of the more interesting things that I've noticed this college football season is that schools that are usually associated as being basketball powerhouses are now becoming football schools. Most notably Kentucky and Duke, who are both ranked right now. I think Kansas was in there for a while too. But anyways, I'm trying to figure out why that is. Because the NIL money is going to come and get you for you no matter what sport you play. But maybe it's because basketball players have to go to college for only 1 year before they can get into the NBA. Whereas football players have to be out of high school for, I think it's 2 years before they can get drafted. And hey, a lot of the college football, basketball players, they aren't even going to college. They're basically going to the G League or overseas to play before they can go into the NBA. Whereas, you know, if you're a football player, you pretty much got to play, you know, in the college football before you can get drafted into the NFL. But yeah, so NIL money notwithstanding, maybe it's because a lot of players are now, they're saying they want to stay maybe in state and play for the team that they rooted for growing up. So they don't really have to go to any of these high profile programs to make their NIL money or get drafted into the NFL. So yeah, it's kind of interesting change there where, hey, you know, Duke and Kentucky, football powerhouses. Who knew? That new Dos Equis commercial where they have the two couples and they're at a restaurant someplace and they're both breaking up with each other or whatever, and it's like, oh, we're leaving you, you knew this was going to happen, and then they both, the two people walk out, so the other two people are left there at their tables, sitting there drinking their Dos Equis, and all of a sudden, you know, the girl looks at the guy and then she smiles, she's playing with her hair, and the song in the background playing is, oh, what a difference a day makes. I'm going, day? More like 30 seconds. Alright, so there's this thing called the Rocket app, I guess. Rocket something or other, and supposedly it tells you when you are paying for subscriptions to services that you didn't think you were paying for. You know who else does that? Your bank. Your bank statement will tell you if you are paying for things that you didn't know you were paying for. And if you're like me and you check every couple days, you'll see that you're paying for things that you didn't think you were paying for. So why you need an app to tell you that, I'm not really sure, because your bank pretty much will tell you all of that. So it was revealed this week that the USFL and the XFL are going to merge. And create a new supergroup called the National Springtime Football League. I guess they've already filed for a trademark for it. This is pretty interesting because, I mean, if they're really going and putting their money where their mouth is, so to speak, I mean, you have to ask Rock about that. This means that we may, at one point in time, have actually two major football leagues. Not at the same time, but this means that there will be football pretty much year-round. The only time there won't be any football will be maybe the summer, but I don't know how long the playoffs for the the new National Springtime Football League will last, but if it's like any other league, I'm pretty sure they'll go somewhere into the summer. So we may have football, professional football, pretty much year-round. Go football? So I'm watching the Packers-Lions game last week, and they had an interesting graphic on there where they were showing that Jared Goff was better at home than he was on the road. And they showed the graphic was interesting because it was for some reason it was Wizard of Oz based. Don't really know why, but they showed, oh, at home he has a better record, and at away he has a not such a good record. But the weird thing about it was that they were showing the away graphic, and it shows him standing at the Homestead Farm in Kansas, and the home record was showing him standing on the yellow brick road. I thought, well, isn't that kind of weird? Because if his home thing statistics are better, should they be at the farm? Whereas the bad road statistics should be on the yellow brick road? So in the spirit of Halloween coming up, I just got to mention that whole new Jack in the Box Monster Taco commercial with the creepy ice cream truck playing. When did ice cream trucks become creepy? I mean, they've always had that kind of weird, broken, the music's always been kind of like a little bit flat or sharp or off kilter or whatever. But yeah, but now it's like, yeah, we're turning it into something creepy. Maybe because of the it factor, you know, that it character, maybe that's what it's all about. Maybe turn the ice cream truck into something creepy. So now clowns are creepy and ice cream trucks are creepy. So happy Halloween. Alright, so I got a couple of oops here. Two from this week and one from the last episode where I was talking about the coach for the Vikings had stated in a press conference that he had been on a team that had come down from behind 0-3 and won a world championship. And I was like, I've never heard of that. But I kind of forgot a little bit of details here. First of all, the Toronto Maple Leafs came back from 0-3 to win the Stanley Cup in 1942, I believe. But that's a Stanley Cup, not really a world championship. And then there was also the well-known Boston Red Sox coming from 0-3 to beat the Yankees in 2004. But that wasn't for a championship. That was for the American League Championship Series, where they did go on to win a World Series, but still that's not really a World Championship. This week, my oops are the World Cup is actually played over 32 days usually, not the month and a half that I had stated. But the World Cup is actually adding, it's expanding to 48 teams next time around. So that might change a little bit. I mean, they're going to have to add extra days to accommodate those extra teams, right? And also the other oops is it's not the National Springtime Football League. It's the National Spring Football League. So I kind of added that time in there a little bit myself. So, oops. Alright, so here's the part where I'm supposed to ask you to subscribe and like. Yes, subscribe please. Like, I'm like a lot of you where I don't really want to answer that questionnaire at the end of the interview or the phone, whatever. But yeah, and hashtag Jim Plunkett Hall of Fame.